Bruno does not work in the midfield. I don't think he wants to play in the midfield. Bruno at number 10 is arguably our best player. You put Mainu next to Casemiro, you put Bruno into Cunha's role, and you put Cunha into Sesko's role.
It's safe to say that Mark Goldbridge is not a fan of Bruno Fernandes playing in the midfield. Time and time again, he has blamed the midfield for everything that's wrong with United, and he's obsessed with the idea that we're playing a number 10 as a number 8 in the midfield. Here's what he had to say after the 3-0 defeat to City.
When you put a number 10 as a number 8 in a midfield 2, forget it. You are going to get demolished. Man City today let us have the ball and then swamped the midfield and broke on us.
Look, he's absolutely entitled to have his opinion on the midfield issues at United. In fact, most of us, including me, have said that United need 2 better midfielders ahead of Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes in the long term. Against Fulham, Bruno didn't track Smith Rowe for the equalizer, and maybe he should have done better for the opener against City. Even though I think that one's a bit harsh because all 3 centre-backs, both wing-backs and Ugarte are inside the box, and they're all ball-watching. But is it fair for Mark Goldbridge to have that same take about Bruno 11 games into the season, even after we've seen him play well against Sunderland, Liverpool, Brighton, Forest, and Tottenham? Because he isn't just saying that Bruno is bad in the midfield. He's saying that Kobbie would be better than Bruno in that 8 role next to Casemiro, even though there's clear evidence to show that Kobbie Mainoo is worse defensively than Bruno Fernandes. And I don't think anybody doubts that Kobbie's better than Bruno going forward. But Mark Goldbridge wants to take it a step further than that. On November 10th, 2 days after the Tottenham draw, he said this.
If you put Jordan Henderson into our midfield, we'd be better.
Just give me a random midfielder, a random Premier League. If you put Jordan Henderson into our midfield, we'd be better.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah, Mark, it sounds crazy because it is crazy. The underlying tone of disrespect for Bruno Fernandes is very evident in Mark's videos this year. He'll sprinkle in the classic, he's our best player as a number 10, but his bias against Bruno and for Kobbie is there for everybody to see. What he fails to realize is that based on evidence, Bruno Fernandes has easily been United's second best player this season after Bryan Mbeumo, and in his 14th season as a professional footballer, he's not only learned a brand new position, he has become one of the best players in the Premier League in that position, compared to the likes of Declan Rice, Enzo Fernandez, Bruno Guimarães, and even his replacement targets like Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton. So I'm sorry, Mark, if you don't want to look at the evidence and tell the truth about Bruno Fernandes, someone else has to. Whether Mark has been explicit about it or not, his criticism of Bruno Fernandes comes down to one thing: his defensive output. In Mark's mind, Bruno is a traditional number 10 that absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, play in a box-to-box role. To him, Bruno is just like Juan Mata or David Silva, the small, silky creator who thrives on tiki-taka combinations and a low center of gravity. But what Mark fails to realize is that Bruno's profile is completely different. He is much closer to Kevin De Bruyne, a relatively taller playmaker who uses game intelligence and timing to contribute defensively when the system requires it. The only reason De Bruyne didn't have to defend in 99% of his games is because he played most of his career with a prime Fernandinho or a prime Rodri. He played in a team that had plenty of other players to do the dirty work. Bruno Fernandes in this version of Amorim's team does not have that privilege yet. But more importantly, Amorim's 3-4-3 does not require Bruno Fernandes to be a number 6 type destroyer. That is Casemiro's role. Bruno actually needs to be the box-to-box midfielder that is positionally versatile in attack and collectively responsible in defense. Let's just take a look at Bruno's average position on the pitch in our 3 best games this season. Against Sunderland, when we were under pressure to win after losing 3-1 to Brentford, Bruno's average position on the pitch was right next to Šeško and Ahmad. In this game, he had 3 shots, created 3 chances, had 7 passes into the final third, and 65 touches of the ball, only 5 behind Casemiro. Even with this kind of attacking output from an advanced position, Bruno had 9 defensive contributions with 3 clearances, 2 interceptions, and 4 ball recoveries. Against Liverpool, while playing a team that we never beat at a ground where we never win, Bruno's average position was again very advanced, right next to Cunha and Ahmad. In this game, he had 2 shots, 3 chances created, 12 passes into the final third, and a team-high 54 touches of the ball. Despite all of that, he gave us 8 defensive contributions with 1 tackle, 2 clearances, and 5 ball recoveries. And against Brighton, our bogey team of the past 4 seasons, Bruno's average position was slightly higher than Cunha, just behind Šeško here, basically playing as the number 10, and he gave us 4 shots, 2 chances created, 6 passes into the final third, and a game-high 83 touches. And let's not forget that last assist, or the involvement in the Mbeumo goal as well. But again, from this advanced position, despite the quality attacking output, Bruno had 15 defensive contributions. That's 3 tackles, 1 block, 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, and 7 ball recoveries. What most people don't realize is that 2 things define Amorim's system more than anything else. That's collective responsibility and positional versatility. He wants the likes of Mbeumo and Cunha to be as good defensively as they are going forward, so that the wing-backs and outside center-backs feel comfortable jumping forward to press from the back. He also wants his midfielders to feel comfortable getting to the touchline to put a cross into the box, just like we saw Casemiro doing against Brighton. Even in this system, where the defensive and attacking responsibilities are spread out across the 10 outfield players, Bruno Fernandes is delivering elite attacking numbers while exceeding his defensive expectations. That is not just impressive, it's unprecedented. And I know stats don't always tell the full story, so let's take a look at some evidence from my review of the Tottenham game. So we start with Palhinha on the ball deep in the Tottenham half here. As you'll see in a second, Brennan Johnson drops deep to pick up the ball in this channel, and Dorgu tracks him as well, and I want you guys to pay attention to Bruno here. As Dorgu switches markers to Porro down here, Bruno has to run with Johnson out wide, which is, to be fair, a difficult marking job for Bruno because of both pace and physicality. But Bruno's actually a few seconds ahead of everybody else in terms of reading the game, so he knows exactly what Porro is going to do here. And as Porro plays out that pass, Bruno's already got the jump on Brennan Johnson, and even though he's much faster, Bruno gets to the ball first, and he just shepherds it towards the back and plays it out to Lammens over here. This is Exhibit A of Bruno's collective defensive responsibility. He's using his game intelligence to read what Porro is going to do instead of using his physicality or tackling abilities. And this is exactly where Mark Goldbridge is wrong about playing Kobbie over Bruno. As much as I want Kobbie Mainoo to succeed and do well in this team, he doesn't read the game as well as Bruno does. And he can't compensate for that deficiency with his hustle or his physicality like Manuel Ugarte can. When you put these things into perspective, you can see why Mainoo is the last choice in the set of 4 midfielders that we have at the club. I'll even go as far as to say if we kept Scott McTominay, I think he'd be ahead of both Mainoo and Ugarte to play next to Casemiro whenever Bruno got subbed. Now let's take a look at some more evidence from the Tottenham game. This time we see Bruno's defensive hustle at work. As Simons receives it, Bruno comes up from the weak side and tackles him to knock the ball loose right there, but unfortunately this ball falls straight into Richarlison's path and he manages to play it straight back into Xavi's path right here, as we'll see in a second right there, right? And as Xavi dribbles forward with the ball, pay attention to the defensive efforts from Bruno Fernandes to try to get back and actually stop him right here. So eventually, Luke Shaw comes across and he gets there, and Bruno's providing help from the weak side here, and he manages to knock the ball loose from Xavi's feet. This is Exhibit B of Bruno's collective defensive responsibility. We're seeing him be part of 3 or 4 players that are running back to stop Xavi, and he's doing just about enough without giving away stupid fouls. Again, this is a deficiency in Kobbie's game that everyone knows about. He doesn't have the same defensive work rate that Bruno just showed here, and even though he is actually built to be much stronger than Bruno, he doesn't use his physicality off the ball like Bruno uses his brain. Now, I feel like Mark Goldbridge knows all of this. He knows Kobbie has work rate issues that he needs to improve before he can dislodge Bruno from the midfield spot. And he knows that Bruno is doing the defensive work that I just showed you guys. He does the watch-alongs for every game. So that leaves us with one question. If Mark knows all of this, why does he still refuse to give Bruno Fernandes the credit he deserves? Is it bias? Or is it that he's deliberately ignoring what's in front of him because he's built his brand on Bruno can't play in the midfield? Or maybe he just doesn't know how to connect the eye test with the stats, which is funny because that's exactly the thing that he accuses Gary Neville of failing to do. Let's be real, Mark's take on Bruno is exactly the type of shallow analysis that he loves to accuse other ex-players of. Every chance he gets, he shits on Gary Neville for being lazy with his takes. But he doesn't seem to realize that he's doing the exact same thing with his Bruno in the midfield take. I feel like by refusing to see the evidence in front of him, Mark is becoming the Gary Neville of football YouTube. Now, if everything I've shown you so far isn't enough, let's close this debate with some cold hard numbers. Specifically, I want to compare Bruno with some of the best box-to-box midfielders in the world and the Premier League. Players that Mark would take over Bruno in a heartbeat. So, over the last 365 days, Bruno ranks above the 95th percentile in 7 out of 8 key attacking metrics among midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues, and 4 of those metrics are above the 98th percentile. That is elite attacking output. When it comes to ball progression, he's equally ridiculous with 11.7 progressive passes or carries per 90, which actually beats Jude Bellingham's 9.3 per 90. And defensively, Bruno is slightly better in tackles and recoveries, while Jude edges him in aerials 1. So compared to Real Madrid's and England's golden boy, he's right up there in the same bracket. Next, we can look at 3 Premier League midfielders that are known for their ball progression, creative output, and defensive work rates. The exact things that you would want from a box-to-box midfielder. Enzo Fernandes, Declan Rice, and Bruno Guimarães. When you line these guys up side by side, Bruno produces almost a carbon copy of their outputs. But he doesn't get the plaudits that those guys get. I wonder why that is. Could it be that Enzo plays in a team that has invested £2 billion in the last few years and he has Moises Caicedo to do his defensive work next to him? Could it be that Declan Rice has a 26-year-old Zubimendi that makes him look a lot better? Or could it be that Bruno Guimarães plays next to Tonali and Joe Linton in an Eddie Howe system that has all 10 outfield players working hard defensively? Even when we look at the likes of Elliot Anderson or Adam Wharton, neither of them are that much better than Bruno when you look at the combination of attacking and defensive outputs. So it seems like everyone, including Mark Goldbridge, is happy to look at Bruno's visible deficiencies like the occasional misplaced passes, a 50-50 that he doesn't win, or moments of fatigue late on in games, because those things fit the narrative that Bruno is poor defensively. But they're not willing to acknowledge the mitigating circumstances that bring out these deficiencies, like the fact that he's playing next to a 33-year-old Casemiro, or the fact that our squad depth is pitiful compared to any other top 6 side, because the mitigating circumstances don't seem to fit the narrative of Bruno being poor defensively. And just for shits and giggles, let's compare Bruno to Jordan Henderson, James Garner, and Joao Gomez, because according to Mark Goldbridge, these 3 random Premier League midfielders would be better than Bruno Fernandes in this midfield. Here's the side-by-side comparison of Bruno to James Garner. You can see he's nowhere near Bruno's attacking output, but he's better defensively. Here's the side-by-side comparison of Bruno to Joao Gomez. Again, it's the same story. Nowhere near the attacking output that Bruno's giving you, but he's better defensively. And finally, for the most Gary Neville take of them all, here's the comparison between Bruno and Jordan Henderson. Mark, seriously, what are you smoking to say that a 35-year-old Jordan Henderson would be better than Bruno in our midfield? If this take is not trolling, it's got to be negligence. So let's be real here. Mark, you're the face and voice of Man United fans, whether you like it or not. You have the biggest social media platform by far, and I'd argue that more people listen to you than Gary Neville or Paul Scholes, probably even combined. The 3 shorts that I looked for in this video have a combined 282,000 views and 7,800 likes. Most people are taking your points as gospel because they don't have the time to watch back the games or look through the stats like you have. I'm not saying you have to love Bruno in the midfield. It's okay to criticize him or Ruben Amorim because neither of them are perfect. All I'm looking for is a little more effort to go beyond the surface and challenge your own takes. You've got to be sure that you are right, especially when you're going on this extended campaign to get Bruno out of the midfield. Because if you don't do that, It's like
a mouse seeing a big lump of cheese on a mousetrap and saying, I'll get the knife and fork.
So what do you guys think? Get in the comments with your thoughts, and if you've made it this far, why not leave me a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.